Boom, boom, boom. The team is back in full effect. That's right, the four Bs. Starting off with Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 trillion man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Never Look, aka the Excellence of Execution, and she is here, Mrs. No Show, aka Mrs. No Show, for all the pronouns, woke people, and those who like to change their genders. You know who you are. What's going on, girls and boys?
It's a big week, but it's non-Bitcoin related, isn't it?
I know it's had an impact on Bitcoin, just as had an impact on all the markets. Because I'm looking behind me, we're back at 50k Bitcoin, and that's in
Everything swung up because it looked like Mr. Trump was going to be president. Now this just seems like his ratings have soared up even higher.
Oh, it's a sealed deal now, isn't it? Yeah,
well, you don't know that. It might be, Joe Biden is hiding out in his cellar again for the next half year. Can't make any, what do they call it, rallies, and wins. Suddenly it changes on the mail-in votes.
Yeah, a few 250-year-old grandmas randomly voting for Biden. Okay.
Yeah, population of the US all of a sudden doubles.
Yeah. Well, it's why it's so easy to fudge these elections, isn't it? Because only about 30% of the population vote. So that basically, you can either just pretend to vote for 70% or just get up some dead people votes and add a couple more million into the side that you want to win. And it doesn't look, you can't, it's because if 95 to 98% of people voted, it'd be very hard to manipulate that vote. Because if the majority of those votes go to one person, you can't go over 100%. So, unless you're being like, it's so obvious. So you've only got 2 million votes to kind of make up, and if you're more than 200 million behind, then you're done. But when there's only 30%,
but it's also they talk about because obviously they've been importing workers, and they've put it as you don't need an ID, which is it's not saying the workers who are immigrating will vote for Biden. It's just, it seems left it really wide open to voter fraud and say you don't need an ID.
You'd be nuts if you were an illegal immigrant in America. You would be nuts to not vote for Biden, because Trump's main policy is he's going to round up all the illegal immigrants and deport them. So that's why it leads into that theory that's why they're doing it, letting more and more in, because their policy is it's not a problem, so therefore there's no deportation law coming. Whereas Trump explicitly said, I'm going to round up and deport every single fucking one of these and fall back to proper immigration, which is, we let in a controlled amount of people that will benefit the society, not just anyone that runs across. So hence, that's why that illegal immigration argument around voting, because there's a substantial amount of people in the country, right, in America that are completely illegal. And if there's an argument to say they can vote, well, they are only voting for Biden. So that is potentially millions and millions of votes going Biden's way.
Funnily enough, it's having a conversation at work, and it's about politics. And I kept one of the usual, I just cut, but there's no party which represents me. But they're talking about how the Tories in the UK have been bringing in immigrants to keep the wages down.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went, that's funny, because when I talked about this 3-4 months ago in public, people were looking at me like I was a full-on racist, but now it's pretty much widely accepted. I'm like, thank you. I hate being a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah, as we know, the only conspiracy theorists for about 6 months, and it just becomes the truth, and everyone else jumps on board. I don't realise that they've jumped on board the conspiracy theory. It's just now, oh no, that's more evidence. The science has changed. But whatever their excuses, it's like, no, the situation is the same now as it was 6 months ago. I wasn't wrong.
Yeah, because there's always just ways of hiding inflation, and that's one of the big bits. Is if you keep the salary down. So if you look at the UK versus US, the average salary for US is like, is it 65 or 75k? So with the exchange rate, what's that, about 60, 55k to the pound, whereas we're actually at 32, 33 still.
Yeah.
So we're still at rates which were early 2000s as an average salary. So like you kind of go, it's just hiding inflation, just like one of our stories later.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a big reason they do it.
I'm sure we talked about the assassination, sorry, just to go back to it on a pod at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We mentioned they've got to do this because I looked through our kind of signal group and couldn't see it specifically in there, but I was sure we covered this in terms of that's their next move or their only move that they have to do.
What do you mean for Trump? Because we've said it about other
Trump,
leaders.
yeah.
We said Bukele, we've said we reckon he's a target, and then also maybe Malay, but we can't really work out where he is.
I think we may have covered it when we were discussing Imran Khan because it was very similar in terms of everything that's happened.
Well, he's a terrorist.
Well, exactly. They didn't want the voting to go ahead, so therefore they obviously tried to put him in prison. Similar story with Trump, and obviously when that didn't work with Trump, now it's this as well, and obviously trying to deplete his funds.
Have you heard why they didn't have someone on that roof?
It was slopey.
No.
Yeah, it had a slope on it. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
And this was from like one of the senior people in the Secret Service.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, then they showed the photo of where they had the snipers and they're on a slope roof.
Yeah, and the slope roof that he's on, you think, okay, it's like that, because they were saying it's a danger to have someone on the roof. It wasn't. It was like this.
It was like which they're on was more sloped.
The most gently sloped roof you could possibly have been on. Whereas, the roof that they were on, where their snipers were on, facing, by the way, directly at the sniper that shot at Trump, because they did not move their gun when they pressed fire.
But how can you have
about the 2 minutes video? That's crazy.
That is
where people are shouting that he's there.
There's someone on the roof who've got a gun. He even points the gun at a police officer.
Yeah, and he walked off, didn't he?
And he doesn't report it. He doesn't do anything. And apparently, like someone, I don't know how verified this is, but apparently someone's spoken to the sniper and they've gone, yeah, he was in my sights for 3 minutes, but I didn't get given the go ahead to fire.
The only thing, the devil's advocate to all of this though is, clearly it failed, and all that has done is like put what Trump is doing on steroids. Like,
he
made
a martyr.
Yeah, so it's like,
someone died.
What I can't get past is that the head turn thing. You've seen the image where his head is here, and if that bullet goes straight through the middle of his head, but a split second before he fires, he turns to look at the crowd somewhere randomly, and that just clips his ear. You go, if he didn't turn his head in that split second, it's through the middle of his skull.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's lots of things about this. Like, there's the Democrats who sent us a video of, I think it must be outside or San Francisco, where we're asking them, and they're calling it false flags, the same that Trump staged it. They had him cut his ear, and obviously 2 people behind him got shot. So literally, you're not guaranteed to make that shot. Anyone, even professional sniper. And then the person who did it, it's got no social media, no footprint, and they were early 20s, so it doesn't really fit. And then the Discord account was deleted straight away because there was nothing incriminating on there, which is really strange. And then what was the other one? He tried to go into shooting club at school, and he's so shit that they rejected him because they're quite serious in that school. And he turns up 3 years later and takes a shot from 200 yards. Was it 200 yards or 200 meters? 200 meters, and was that close to taking someone out with a headshot.
Well, it was the perfect shot if he hadn't moved.
Yeah.
And it's almost the time that you take to press the trigger is when Trump moved. So,
and they also had they voted Republican in some. It wasn't the full election, but it was something which led up to it. So it highlighted them as Republican. Like, it's all kind of like all these things. You kind of go, this is too convenient.
Yeah.
Also, as well, on the shots, when there was 1 or 2 shots, and then there was like lots of shots. If you had the one time to do the shots, you just let the round off and you just go for it, wouldn't you? Whereas he didn't. It was just like he thought and believed, I only need the perfect shot. And then, but obviously afterwards he needed more.
You know, some of
And
those
still
shots
missed.
are going into his skull.
Yeah.
That's another thing, like another inconsistency is it's really inconvenient, I think, because the snipers on the Secret Services side, they're in the same frame as Trump. They're
Yeah.
behind him. So all the official documentation has them and they are pointing at someone. You can see them. They are aimed on something. Because then the shots go off, they do not move, they just fire and take him out. So like it's not like they were scoping around, like looking at a random place. A shot goes off, you'd think they go, holy shit. Because what should have been in their head, it should take them a while to find the shooter because they don't know where he is, which is why he got the shot off.
And it's additionally
exactly where he was, and they just pinged him the second he shot.
They were fixed on him, you're saying, for a couple of minutes before. So they're watching him. And obviously this person would have been pointed somewhere near Trump. And at that point, he's pointed in the other direction, would have gone, step down, don't shoot until he turns, whereas he was pointing in the general direction. So like
the protocol is if there's a guy on a roof with a gun near a president, you shoot them.
But I'm saying it wasn't even like he was facing the other way.
No, he's lying down on a roof, pointing it at the president, and they just watched him for a few minutes.
Have you seen the Reagan assassination attempt?
I saw all the big burly. I saw the after events because we've seen all the memes going around, and it just shows all these massive guys jumping over Reagan.
Yeah, they literally within 11 seconds, like jumped onto the guy. Reagan was obviously covered and immediately into the car, but the last shot that the person tried to get off did just like graze him or go into the side of him, but it was a completely different event. So I watched another program with an ex-Secret Service agent where it's just like they didn't know what they were doing because they are supposed to give up their lives to cover Trump, and they just stayed there for a while, didn't know what they were doing, still on the X of where they were supposed to be. The mandate is get him the fuck out of there. Like he should be gone. You shouldn't see him.
Do you know what a funny thing I heard? There's actually a bulletproof like border to the stage he was on. And Trump dived in the wrong place. He dived forward, which he shouldn't have done. He should have dived to the side of the stage, which then you're up against the bulletproof glass. But he jumped forward. But then there's that woman comes, she jumps in front of the glass. So if anything, the only person that was safe on that stage was the DEI freaking hire. And she heard bullets and just jumped to be like, oh shit, bullets. It's like that is what any sane person would do, but your job is to take the bullet.
Yes.
And when the moment came, she jumped behind the barrier. Which is just like, look, hire the best person for the job or hire your percentage of vaginas, and this is what you get.
Correct.
Yeah, I do love it. Like the whole thing, it's just yet another thing that doesn't add up, isn't it? And I do love the fact that everybody's a conspiracy theorist on this one. Because if you're in our camp, right, it's like, oh look, we knew Trump was a problem. I actually didn't think they would try and kill him. I thought he's well past that. And if anything, I think killing him would make him a martyr anyway. And someone would stand in and represent Trump, and then they would get voted in anyway. So I thought it was much better to do it through make him a criminal, slander him, and then just rig the election anyway, right? And then he's done, right? It's just, I would have done that if I was them. Looks like they may have gone the other way and they did try and take him out. But what's funny is the people that don't think that this was a conspiracy to take Trump out, and this kid was clearly brainwashed, had a load of private training. How the hell did he become so good at shooting when he's literally a loner that couldn't barely fire when anyone saw him?
He couldn't do it down a range, and now he's taking a 200-meter shot, accounting for wind, and literally would have taken him out if he hadn't turned his head.
Yeah, and he's just been confronted by a police officer, right? The police actually listened to the crowd and went and approached him. He turned around and pointed the gun at the police officer. He backs off. He then gets back on the roof and then fires the shot. So his adrenaline would have been through the fucking roof. He's literally just been caught. He's been busted. Right? A police officer is talking to you on the ground that you're on the roof with the gun. He still had the calmness just to like ping that shot. That's ice cold. That's like next level to make that shot there.
Yeah.
And like that's military training, right? That is that's loads of training under pressure, loads of being put off, like
it's like the Cristiano Ronaldo when he's taken a penalty and they looked at his heart monitor and he'd been running around all game and it was this late in the game and he managed to get his heartbeat down to what is it 50s or something like that or 40s to take the penalty. So he managed to take it probably from 110, 120. And this is what this guy would have been able to do as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's funny that like watching like people be interviewed that are on the left, right? That all the wokie-cokies, the only explanation they have, because they don't accept incompetence, they don't expect conspiracy to kill Trump. They think Trump is the conspiracy, that he staged all this. And you just go, oh, if anything, that's progress. At least you believe in a conspiracy here. Like you're probably on the wrong side of the conspiracy, but at least you're not accepting the default government narrative, which is incompetence. Because the amount of times the government play the incompetence card, I'm like, there's one thing the Secret Service are not, and it's incompetent. They are the best of the best. And there's no way they let that shooter never gets there. There's not in a million years, unless they want him to. Because they're that good.
You don't get anywhere near that. You just don't. Like you couldn't do it at a global event. You couldn't do it at the like on America hosting the World Cup.
I'm
fairly sure they are, right?
America, Latin America, Mexico.
So they've got the World Cup. I mean, if that's the case, what does it say about the credentials to host that? It's bullshit. Right?
Again, this ex-Secret Service agent talked about every place that he goes to will be scoped out weeks or days before. So they would have known about that roof, and therefore they could have isolated that roof beforehand as well.
That's
it's not like it's just
the explanation that they've given is that roof was identified as a risk. But they thought the roof is too steep. It's sloped. So what they did is secure the inside of the building instead of the outside. The guy came in with a fucking ladder. He put the ladder up against, climbed up with a freaking sniper rifle. I understand like people getting
must have been on the day. So they'd have the security dropped into this area a day or two before. So literally he would have got up the ladder on the morning when there would have been security guards, Secret Service everywhere, climbed up and being able to do it. It just doesn't stack up.
Yeah, does it? Before in the park.
Oh, he's chilling. He's chilling.
He probably had his phone, watched some Netflix on the roof, rubbed one out, had a sandwich, and then settled down for his shot.
Watched RuPaul's Drag Race and then went up.
Yeah. Literally, I hate to bring it back to something like the ultimate conspiracy. Well, it's not the ultimate one. The ultimate won't even go there. But it reminds me of the hijackers of those planes in 9/11, right?
Oh God, here we go.
It's not even started and we're going to get cancelled.
Just quickly, they all had flight experience. However, in tiny little planes, and the records of their flight experience, none of them actually passed and got their flight license. And the instructors have been spoken to afterwards and went, they were awful, right? They can't even fly a small plane. These same people supposedly flew a 747, which, talking to any pilot you want to speak to, flying a 747 and a small little kind of private plane, completely different things. One experience does not translate to the other. It was the first time they'd ever been in a cockpit like that. And not only did they fly these planes, they flew them with military precision into two buildings of obviously the Twin Towers. But the most impressive one is the Pentagon. The flight path that person took to come down, fly it low. It was so low, it was clipping lampposts into the side of the Pentagon, which is only, about 10 meters tall. Whereas opposed to it's like 500 meters wide. So anyone that wants to make sure they hit that target would hit it from above. Much easier to dive bomb a target as opposed to hit it from the side when the building is not very tall. And I've seen like top pilots they've tried to imitate that flight path with a 747, getting that low. They keep crashing it. But like this flight path is so difficult. The fact that this inexperienced pilot did this and hit the side of the Pentagon boggles the mind, right? And then in a lesser extent, we got the same thing that happened a couple of days ago, where we got some amateur shooter who's hardly ever fired a gun, and when he has, it hasn't been very impressive. Just took the shot of his life in the most high pressure environment you could ever be put yourself in.
There's no record of because if they wanted to do it properly, they would have had him going down the shooting range. They would have done this and that and shown that he'd practice. Whereas, how is he going to take a 200-meter shot? That's a big question. There's got to be practice for years to get to that level.
I think I've just come up with tonight's title. It's a terrorist crossbar challenge, isn't it?
Terrorist crossbar challenge. Do you know what you chatting there, Mr. Orlin, reminds me of the Adam Rowe sketch about like terrorism. And I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but he's a Scouser and he's talking about like the terrorist attack in Liverpool, and he goes, as far as terrorist attack goes, like it was all right, wasn't it? Like a guy got in a car, drove up to like a hospital, and he blew himself up, but he didn't even blow the car up. And he goes on to talk about the 9/11. He was like, could you imagine being a fly on the wall in the training sessions? It's like, right, we're going to cover landing today, and they're like, no, we don't need that. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's ridiculous. Like I shoot, and I've got my marksman's, and I mean I've got it to 50 meters, and that's fucking hard, So
I remember I had a .22 rifle back in the day for my Duke of Edinburgh award. Trying to I don't know how far I was away. It's either 25 or 50 meters. Tiny.
Yeah, it's 25 or 50.
Targets like the size of someone's head, and hitting that from a distance, it's really tough. And that's in a completely stale environment, like no wind. I'm lying down, comfortable. The second you put a bit of pressure on me, my heart rate's going like just the fact that heart rate goes and you're slightly shaky means you miss every time. Especially at 200 meters, like the slightest deviation, that's missing by 10 meters high.
Yeah, the ranges they're designed so there's no wind, so you don't need to account for wind. And I think like the ones that I've got, both at 50 meters, one of them's with a 2p piece. You got 5 bullets in a 2p piece at 50 meters, and 5 bullets in a 5p piece at 50 meters, and that is insanely hard.
Well, you got that.
Yeah, I've got the badges, man.
5 shots inside of 5.
I've actually seen him shoot. He's good. I do remember when we went shooting.
That's basically the same shot 5 times. So.
Yeah, it's basically the same shot 5 times. You don't move it. It's only got to be touching. It's only got to be touching what would be a 5p. So if any part of the hole that you make touches the 5p, you're inside that.
Wow. Impressive.
But imagine timesing that by 4.
Yeah.
And plus then winds. Accounting for wind and having no experience.
And also knowing that this is a kamikaze mission, because how was he ever going to get away? So there was no getaway plan. It's once I've shot this, I'm dead.
Yeah.
At least the JFK one was plausible that there was a getaway, right? Because you're in the middle of a street, you're in a building, they don't technically know where you were. So
correct.
The president, and in theory, you could have run into the crowd and potentially blended in and known who the hell you were. Here, he's in a conference in a secure place. They've secured 1,000 meters either side. He's within 200 meters. So he's inside. He's not getting. Yeah, it's a complete suicide.
Unless he was thinking they weren't going to shoot back, but not in America.
No one's thinking that. No one's.
That's questions afterwards once you're dead.
And then best case scenario is maybe they don't shoot you. It's lifetime imprisonment. You probably get in the chair.
Yeah.
And he's killed 2 people behind him, hasn't he?
Oh yeah, of course.
Well, yeah.
One wasn't it? I think
one and 2 critically injured.
Yeah.
And tried to shoot the former president. So it is nonsense. And this whole thing about he's got no shooting experience. Like I said, you'd have to be spending years. You'd have to be trained. There'd have to be all kinds of logs of this going on. You need a professional instructor to get you up to that level. You need a professional instructor to teach you about how to control your breathing and heart rate.
So what you're saying, he didn't take the shot?
He had years of training. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a pile of shite. But we are on a pod which is about Bitcoin, and we're talking about the Orange Man and the conspiracy theories in America.
25 minutes on that.
That's probably
it
one
has
of our
actually been annoying
best.
me that every video I listen to, like the first like 20 minutes is their take on the Trump assassination. But hey, look, it's kind of crazy that probably
We have to. It's
one of the most powerful people in the world gets nearly killed, right? It's not these things genuinely only happen every couple of decades.
yeah, and if it had have happened, do you know what I've seen so far is that people have said that there would be riots going on, and you know, whilst we're talking about a 50k Bitcoin, it would be much higher than that, and anarchy would be going right there.
I don't know, the right don't really riot like the left.
No.
No, the right love. No, don't forget the deep South are proper pro-Trump, and therefore they would have taken to the streets.
Yeah, but they don't riot like the left at all. There's seems to be a massive difference.
Don't you remember Jan 6 when they nearly overthrew democracy?
What you mean when they let them in through the door and there's videos of it, but they still claim that they broke in?
Sounds like you're just a right-wing conspiracy theorist.
I remember like Maya was
a valid attack on American democracy.
I think Maya was telling me the narrative, and I showed her the video, and she's like, "My God!" And someone who my son's football, like he's an American, and he's really, really deep into like Democrats and how bad Trump is and how good Biden is, and it's a stutter, it's not dementia, and all this kind of shit.
Course.
And he's going about, no, that's a conspiracy theory. So I pulled out the video out of our group and showed it to him. And he's just like, oh. And he's like, oh, maybe they would have got overrun. I'm like, they can't get through those doors unless they're opened.
And what do you mean overrun? This is a police officer showing them round. This police officer doesn't look very scared running for his life, letting these looters and...
Yeah, and these people just sat in some chairs, posed, took some pictures, and then I think it only got bad when the police started actually loading rounds into a crowd.
Well, yeah, they fired one bullet into some woman's stomach, and then everyone fucking ran off because no one was armed. Who like tries to take over, does a government coup without a single gun in hand? When you know full well there's hundreds of police officers and if not army people armed to the nines in there. They clearly just went in for a look around. They got welcomed in. And then the second the bullet went off, they went fucking running out the door. Oh, God.
Anyway, let's go on to our favourite subject, American regulations. The first one, our friend Marty Bent is talking about another regulation. So a layer on, so they can control more of a market. So this is, the type of things which they use to control and stimulate markets is bringing in regulations. But I kind of just read this and went, I think the last bit sums up my opinion about this is it's just a regulatory moat. So exchanges can hold their position and stop any newcomers coming in. It screams that to me because I read it and I read it again and went, this is a nothing article about just, it doesn't even make any sense. And then it's just like, oh yeah, Kraken, Coinbase, and you kind of go, I see why this has been brought in.
Yeah, it seems to be even more rigorous, like enhanced KYC and AML if you deal with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So obviously, this, like you said, it is just a regulatory moat because now that Kraken, Coinbase, Ripple are in here, like Jesus, they're not even a Bitcoin exchange. They are literally a shitcoin company. And of course, they're pivoting for this and like rooting for this. But yeah, because now that they make their millions, if a new regulation comes in that costs them another 10 million a year to do it, easy. But what it stops is the new companies coming in to go, oh, by the way, just to enter this market, you need 10 million quid a year just for compliance.
Yeah.
So everyone just goes, well, screw that. Too risky. I haven't got 10 million to burn on top of the money I need to actually build a business that differentiates over Kraken, Coinbase, and Ripple. So
And all the red tape.
this is how the banks did it. It's how the supermarkets did it. It's how everyone did it, right? Regulation largely is either benefits the government to surveil you, or it builds regulatory moats for their best mates or their co-opted companies they want to protect. Because now that's the thing, once you co-opt a company, which this is really sad for me to see, right? That Kraken is in this list. Because I knew Coinbase is basically a US asset now. Looks like Kraken might be as well. Because obviously once they take the time to co-opt these companies and make them play ball, they then want to protect them and go, right, this industry has kind of matured. These are the top players. Let's leave it at that. We don't want to keep them changing. And then we've got to go to a new CEO and a new head of compliance and co-opt them and get them to talk to us and share all the backdoor data. Really fucking onerous. So let's just let a space play out. Let it 10, 15 years, it plays out. You pick the winners. US government comes in and goes, look, we'll destroy your business via regulation or fines unless you agree to this. And if you do agree to this, we'll protect your business for life. It's very similar to the mafia, right? It's hush money, protection money in the form of regulation. And that looks like what this is. And weirdly, he starts it by going, Trump. But I think which is why I made sure this story was top anyway. And I just left it top and didn't add any stories about the assassination because weirdly Trump even started this because he's talking at the Bitcoin conference and Amati's just like it's almost even more important because Trump has explicitly said he's pro Bitcoin, which means he will be against this kind of regulation to make it harder to create a Bitcoin business, whereas clearly the other side want to do this. This is where all this is coming from. So,
they're saying they want it through fast before the election even. So
yeah, which is why
it can always just be repealed afterwards, though.
Yeah.
Well, as we kind of know, like obviously Marty here is going, it's important to vote for Trump here if you want to be pro Bitcoin in America, but it doesn't matter. Like this kind of thing, if they want to roll this out, they roll it out. It doesn't matter whether Trump's in or not. Like Trump could just go, I'm never putting any regulations on Bitcoin, get voted in by a 95% majority, and they'd still do this.
Yeah.
The president is just a puppet. He's just a figurehead that is there for people to think that they have choice and democracy, when in reality the people running the steering there is behind the scenes. But yeah, so that's another nice happy story. Do you want to move on to the next story? The next one's even
which is
happier.
also happy,
The tragic story of Kevin Day.
Oh, this was heartbreaking. Watching and reading this. So Kevin Day. Let's find me the story here. So
16 billion.
Yeah.
16 billion in a rollback.
So Kevin bought 260,000 Bitcoin for 1 cent each way back when was it? Let's just read the thread.
It was in the days of
doesn't actually give a year, does it?
No, it was when why can't I think of the name of the thing? They got hacked. We talked about them last week.
Mt. Gox.
Mt. Gox, yeah. And there was basically like a glitch in the matrix and the price dropped to 0.01. Everyone was selling after that panic. And he bought and they rolled back, they null and voided the trade before he could get the Bitcoin that he bought off the exchange.
It was June 2011.
They had limits, like he could only take out 600 odd Bitcoin
at a time. Yeah.
So he'd taken off the 600. But looking at this, what doesn't seem to be noticed is obviously we're talking about the billions which he could have had. He got 643 Bitcoin off for what was the price again?
He paid a cent.
He paid a cent.
Yeah.
So he paid $6.43 for 643 Bitcoin, and I don't know what happened to him, but that's 32 million pounds. So literally, we're saying, it's really tragic. The guy got 32 million pounds as long as he hodled for the price of $6.43.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was crashing from $17 or something like that.
It went from $7
Yeah.
to down to
I'm
a
I'm
cent.
guessing this man had a shitload of Bitcoin anyway. If he's into Bitcoin at this time and
Yeah,
knows to plow money in.
yeah. He was like mining it. He was buying it on Mt. Gox. So yeah, I imagine I don't know if he ended up selling it. I don't think it actually says.
No, it's in the comments where people go, "Oh, did he keep the 648, which is like $38 million?" And yeah, he replies with like, "Yeah, we can't cooperate even on the blockchain following the wallets."
Yeah.
Like you said, he likely this wasn't his only Bitcoin anyway. So I'm sure he did very well out of Bitcoin, but yeah, this 25,000 or
You know, he's still swanning around, sunning his balls.
yeah,
I mean,
tens of millions. I'm sure he just doesn't have
Yeah,
billions.
but it goes back to say, we've talked about the exchanges, and clearly back then there was limits, and that in itself is a red flag.
well,
If you can buy this much Bitcoin but only withdraw so much per day,
well, you
that
think
sounds a
back,
lot like a bank.
but if you think like 12 years ago, like the structure of Bitcoin exchanges, most people couldn't get it off. There weren't ledgers, and
Mm,
so like you were
Correct.
limited to what you could do. I mean, it's also I expect the like infrastructure wasn't there to do mass withdrawals, so I think this was really like a tough time
It's the same
for
now.
anyone who's what.
It's the same now. Like they have limits on how much you can withdraw in a day on every exchange, depending on
Yeah,
who you are. So most exchanges will limit you to between 10 and 50K as a normal customer, and then I think once you grow, like build up some trust with them, they limit you to like 250K. So if this were to happen
yeah,
again, like say like Kraken or Coinbase make a kind of fuck up like this, and the price goes down to a penny again, you buy 1,000 Bitcoin or whatever, and then the price comes back because you're good luck getting it out. They're going to have you by the balls, and you'd be able to withdraw your 250 grand if you've got the highest level account. But
yeah,
then if you've stolen hundreds of millions or tens of millions even, it will take you months to get all that out every day. And clearly they're going to realize that you're the guy that grabbed the price when they made a fuck up, and they're going to go, we're claiming that back. So nothing would change unless it's a decentralized exchange, and
yeah.
the world has not changed. And if anything, it's kind of, if I was running an exchange, you do the same type of thing. You'd have to protect yourself from bankruptcy from one
have to.
day.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
but but yeah, once it's on your ledger,
Can't do anything.
then it's yours. But when it's on an exchange, as we know, it's not your Bitcoin yet. So you just got an IOU, and they can take it back at any time. And here they are taking it back. But to be fair, I don't actually massively hate them for taking it back in this example, because it clearly was a mistake.
Yeah, it's a database
yeah.
glitch.
They said that, didn't they? In that thread, there's two interesting schools of thought, and actually, some people have said, was he actually responsible for it? Did he like work there or have like insider knowledge and stuff like that as well? So it's interesting. You've got people that are like, well, they fucked up, but they should own that, and it's tough. Or people saying, well, actually, like no, like what you just said there, you don't massively blame him. It was clearly just an error. But like, how would you feel in that situation?
Did
Like,
we
you
actually get
see
down
that
to the bottom of whether he did it?
No, he didn't. Well, I don't think there's no confirmation that he did it at all.
Mm,
But
What's slightly sus is that he seemed very adamant he was never going to sue them,
yeah,
which kind of goes, maybe he did have a
Ooh.
little bit of a part where he didn't really want people to be digging into
correct.
the evidence to go, well, hold on, your IP address is here.
But it did say that he's a Bitcoiner, so he did
Yeah.
believe in the project, and Mt. Gox was the main source for it in the world.
Yeah,
So he didn't want
to exchange, yeah. But
Yeah,
that's a little bit of a virtue signal. It's like, don't know. I'd like to believe it, but then there's a part of me that goes, also kind of sus.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously now when you sat there with 50K Bitcoin, if you still got the 650 coins that you got, obviously you got no complaints. But at the time, those coins wouldn't have been worth particularly that much. You still would have got away with a decent chunk, but it probably wouldn't have been anything crazy. maybe 100K or so. You know, like it's not life-changing at that point. So he stole life-changing money, or at least what he thinks genuinely brought life-changing money.
Yeah.
And then it's been taken away from him. Most people would have at least just done the lawsuit and then settled out of court and gone, look, I'm not going to take you 250,000 Bitcoin. That's kind of crazy. Clearly, I'm not going to do that. But give me 20,000. You know, give me a couple of million to piss off. Right?
Yeah.
You technically owe me 50 million.
Yeah.
I'll take 2, and we'll call it quits. Yeah. So Mt. Gox doesn't go under. The price of Bitcoin doesn't go under. You know, everyone wins, and Mt. Gox just pay a nice fine for their technical fuck up. But for him just to
It's
go,
like
never even crossed my mind to sue them. You go, is that because you kind of did it and then just knew it was happening and had the trade sat there just to like nab it for that penny?
It's like Pandora's box, isn't it? Doesn't want to open it because you know what's going to come out. So yeah, it's definitely sus.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of the digital version of back in the day. If you see the price of something in a shop and then they sell it to you at that, and it's just like, whoa, we've made a mistake, but come on now, and they've got to kind of do that.
Yeah,
but then you were the one that switched the stickers around.
That they're switching those prices around.
Yeah, you switch the stickers exactly.
Yeah.
And I've also seen it on the other side where they just go, well, this is clearly an error that we didn't do this, so no.
Yeah.
We're not going to give you this TV for the price of a fucking Kit Kat. What world do you think you live in? Like it's like, oh no, but I saw like this guy on TV tell me if it's listed at a price, you have to honor it. You're like, yeah, that's not the real world, mate. So we're going to take this sticker off, go to the aisle, and clearly they were all listed for the right price. Just because some dickhead put the Kit Kat sticker on the TV doesn't mean we have to honor it. Now go fuck off back to YouTube.
Correct. That was taking me back to my first year in law, actually. It's an offer to treat. So it's not necessarily an offer to buy or sell.
Hold on, did you do a law degree? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, no way. I didn't know that. That's a bit of new knowledge for me.
Yeah. I thought you were being sarcastic.
No, I honestly didn't know you did a law degree.
Yeah. My first term was taught law, which this is essentially like when you're a fresher, the first term.
But then the second term was something different.
Yeah, you do lots of various different pieces of law. So yeah.
It was a law degree though. The whole thing was law.
Yeah. The whole thing was law, but you just different parts. So it could be like probate, wills, family law, etc., and so forth.
It's like medicine, isn't it? You do everything, and then you decide to specialize on one of them.
Correct. Yeah. But the first one was taught, and this offer to treat.
No way! I did not know that you did a law degree.
Says a lot, doesn't it? it all makes sense now.
It's all makes sense.
To be honest, that doesn't make sense. That's changed my whole view of you. I don't know.
Right. Next story. It's not so sad.
I think this is quite sad.
No, I think this is another one. We're continuing the theme.
Oh, man.
I'm updated. I missed this one.
Yeah, Craig Wright's website.
Wait a second. Yeah. Oh, this is slipped its way in. I've just seen a little update.
Come on, boys.
Yeah.
Make sure you're on point. The agenda's there.
I thought we were.
I hadn't refreshed.
Okay. Well, if you go to craigwright.net. So this is the official Craig Wright website, right? Where he usually is shilling that he is Satoshi, or his consultancy stuff, or his really great CV. Instead, he has had to put a legal notice on top of his webpage titled Dr. Craig Stephen Wright is not Satoshi Nakamoto. He was found by the High Court of England and Wales to have been dishonest in his claims to being the person behind the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto. He relied to the court extensively and repeatedly in his evidence. He is not the author of the white paper. He does not have any copyright over the white paper.
Or he would have just closed down his website instead of putting this in.
Or he would be in breach of the court and held in contempt, and he would go straight to prison. This was part of part of the judgment that was given was this, which is it's kind of beautiful. This is pure karma, right? Because when Craig Wright sued everyone, he wanted everyone that called him a fraud. He went, look, I will drop the case against you if you put a similar type of statement on your website or on your Twitter account. And you have to pin it to the top, or you have to put it on your website. That basically said the opposite of this, that Craig Wright is Satoshi Nakamoto. I apologize for calling him a fraud. He is not. He is the creator of Bitcoin. Da 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 da. He went, if you put that on your Twitter and on your websites, I'll drop the lawsuit.
Yeah.
They didn't. They went, fuck you, Craig. See you in court. And they won. And he had to put this on his website, and this must be killing him inside. Jesus, this is on his website, right? And he has to have it on there for 3 months, according to Hodl. That's what the judgment says. He has to leave this on there for 3 months. Welcome to law, Craig. Welcome to law.
I feel like you've enjoyed reading that all out more than you thought you were going to.
Man, Craig Wright is, ever since I joined Bitcoin, Craig Wright has been a thorn in the side of Bitcoin. So just seeing him finally get his comeuppance is just beautiful, because there's no one in the world that deserves it more than this fucker. He's total sociopath, and it's so rare that people get their comeuppance, right? When these fraudsters kind of,
well, he hasn't had it all, because he's got people into bad financial situations, and he's managed to move his money around to not get caught.
Well, it depends. Like the latest from Hodl, not only is that, his other tweet from today was that they've now got formal approval to proceed with prosecution of Craig Wright and the CEO of Enchain for
I hope they get him.
that follows, if they're successful in this, which has now been approved to go ahead, massive financial penalties and jail time. That will be the this is just a public embarrassment where Bitcoin Twitter kind of go, this is fantastic, but really, yeah, we want to see him behind bars. We want to see him financially wrecked, because he's trying.
I want to see him get all the money off his ex-wife. I want to see him get the money off Air and everyone else. I want to see everyone get bankrupted, is what I want to see.
Well, exactly, because in this time, in the interim, he's no doubt been trying to siphon that off. So let's see what happens.
And he's been going out of his way. He's been going out of his way to bankrupt Bitcoin core devs. He tried to take out Peter McCook, even though he's a bit of a tit. I still don't think that's very fair. Hodl, numerous others. So he needs it. And then, I'm sure he'll enjoy prison food and penis in prison.
I can only imagine Craig in prison. He is the most pretentious, annoying fuck. And walking around a prison, oh my God, I can only imagine like people saying things to him and then his reactions. If he doesn't get shanked in the first week, I'll be amazed.
Or, well, he could just hold someone's pocket.
That's the thing. Craig's just he's not smart enough even to hold someone's pocket. Like, that would be the smartest thing to do. Just become one person's bitch, right? Because then technically that person protects you because they get to use your holes. But Craig isn't even that smart. Like, he'll be like, no, I'm the king of this prison. It's like, dude, you're fucking not. You're nothing in here. And you come in with that kind of attitude, you're just going to get fucking done over. I can't see him surviving long in prison if he goes.
But I don't know if the average jailmate would understand who he is, and he would just blend in.
No, you would just chat their ears off, and they'd be like, I don't know who the fuck you are, man. You know,
No,
like what
Yeah, or
what are
just
you
be
in
in
for?
isolation.
Yeah,
No,
but you
no,
say
you can imagine the story. What are you in for? Oh, I lied about writing a book. You know,
Well, he
oh,
does
it's
great.
cool. I killed my girlfriend. You know?
yeah, but the
Yeah.
thing is, people have a habit of finding out, and therefore they go, "Oh, you connected to Bitcoin, give us your money."
Oh yeah, and he openly says he'll still be saying I am Satoshi. It's like, therefore you're worth 250 billion. So I want 10 mil. Well, I'm going to shank you right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not actually worth any of that though because I haven't got any of it left. My ex-wife took it all.
Yeah, so it's like, well, just get your ex-wife to send me 10 mil. Otherwise, we're shanking you. This
Dead.
tomorrow at 9 in the showers, you're getting shanked. Unless my mate's got 10 mil of Bitcoin in his account. He's just going to get himself tied in so many
Yeah.
fucking knots. It's like the lies matter in the real world, right? When you go
Yeah.
to court and just bullshit,
These
you have to put
people
a
aren't going
message
to
on your
take.
website. If you end up in
They're,
prison and you bullshit, yeah,
yeah,
no.
they're not going to take. Oh yeah. Wait 7 days. Then after 7 days, oh, can you wait another 2 weeks? We're just having problems. It could be like, no, we waited 7 days.
Yeah,
You're getting
going to shank
shanked.
you by 9 a.m. if it wasn't here. Shanking you. It's like, you can't negotiate with criminals. Like it's just it is what it is. And then when you give them 10 mil and it's like, yeah, now I want another 20 and it's tomorrow by 9 a.m. or I shank you again. It's like, this isn't going to stop, is it? It's like, well, you've already told me you have 250 billion. So no, it isn't going to stop. Like, I'm going to keep going until I've got it all because guess what? I rule in here and I can shank you whenever I want. But the cleaners on top.
Oh gosh, we are on
I
Get
think,
fire
too much
today.
pleasure from that.
I think
Terrorism
moving.
and shanking.
So, do we move on to the next one? I think that's a good overview of Craig Wright and what's next year's got in store for him.
The fun that he's got to play with.
Shanking and penis. So, moving on to the next one, Mrs.
It's not the first time you've ever said that sentence.
So, going on to the next one is a story about Bukele, and it's a bit of a disappointing one. So, someone who seemed to be displaying signs of understanding Austrian economics and realizing the problems about Keynesian and MMT. He's someone who is enforcing price controls, so inspecting. So there's a lot of arguments here because there's a lot of fanboys on Bitcoin Twitter of Bukele, and I've noticed this. I've kind of gone, this doesn't go down well. It really doesn't go down well. So price controls, for anyone listening, is when you go, oh, the government says that's too much, therefore we're going to put in a price control. So we had one of these in the UK for gas, and what happened then? A load of gas companies went bust, and we condensed down to only a handful of gas companies. So you end up with more of a monopoly via selected companies, and this is because when the cost which you're trying to restrict it to, when the price which you restrict to is below the cost, they can't afford to operate, so you cease production. And this is why price controls never work. And there's something which has been put in place traditionally to stop the signs of inflation. So hence why we had one on energy, which a lot of people just don't really understand what happened in the UK. But you can go back a couple hundred years, and these were being enforced, and every time it has caused production to stop. So him doing this, you kind of go, Jesus, this is not a good sign for a country. But on the flip side, they used mainly one currency, the US dollar, so they're not in control of the currency. So I think there's issues which he's going to encounter, and I suppose looking at positively, maybe just trying to stop price gouging, because he's not trying to cover up his inflation, he's just trying to help his people, but it's a bit misplaced.
Yeah, and unfortunately, as you just described, price gouging should just be allowed, because let the free market do its thing. Some companies will price gouge. That then brings an opportunity for other people to undercut that. People go to that and then eventually the price will come back down to the price it should be, provided it is a free market that you're working in. So this doesn't exist in energy, water, to a certain extent, housing. These are not free markets. These are government-controlled assets that only a few organizations have the control over that supply. But if we're talking about apples, oranges, a loaf of bread, the second the government come in and go, oh, you're not allowed to sell a loaf of bread for £5. You go, because that's too expensive. You go, well, no, let that place sell the loaf of bread for £5. People won't buy it. They'll go next door and buy it for 50p or whatever the price of a loaf of bread is, right? And so the free market, eventually the person selling it for £5 will realize they'll get a couple of idiots that will buy a £5 worth of bread, but the majority of people go next door and buy it for £1. So eventually the free market decides that if this person wants to sell the bread that they have, which is going off, they have to lower the price back down to market value. So price gouging cannot last for any length of time unless you have a monopoly. So if there's only one supplier of bread and they decide the price of bread is now £5, then now you have a problem. Because if you want bread, you have to pay a £5 for it. So if anything, like he should be, I don't know what the issues are in El Salvador that he's trying to address from this, but it sounds like he might have just a couple of suppliers coming in. And really the way to do it is to break those suppliers up and create more of a free market in El Salvador, as opposed to go, yeah, for this item, you can't go above a certain price. Because, yeah, all innovation stops, all creativity and all the incentive to like have that item and sell it, because eventually inflation will catch you up and your profit margins get squeezed until they're zero. And then you just suddenly go, well, now there's no point. And the only way that that product then exists is if the government subsidizes it. And so now you're still getting a loaf of bread for £1, but really it costs £1.50 to make a loaf of bread. But the government are giving the bread producers 50p for every loaf of bread. And you go, well, this is ridiculous now. Like the price of a loaf of bread shouldn't be £1, it should be £2. And eventually, like we saw in energy, this all snaps. The government decides to not subsidize it anymore, and the price of a loaf of bread jolts from £1 to £2. And everyone's like, what the hell? Like, what the hell's happened here? And it's like, well, yeah, the government were artificially suppressing the price of bread in some vain attempt to stop price gouging. And in the end, the price got beyond where they wanted it to be. And now they have to snap to it, which is exactly what happened in the UK and probably the whole world with energy, where there's a load of price caps on energy. And then obviously they had to snap. And now the price of energy has doubled. And everyone's like, what the fucking hell happened there? It's like, well, it's been had a price cap on it, had subsidies put into it, and they decided they didn't want to pay the subsidies anymore. So they just threw it down to us. And now the price of energy has doubled. They'll blame some war, they'll blame some big bad guy Putin. But in reality,
well, I'm gonna blame greedy companies.
Yeah, they'll still blame price gouging, exactly, even though it's technically a monopoly that's controlled by the government. So if it was price gouging, they're in complete control of reining that in, because there's only like 5 companies in the UK that are allowed to sell energy. But yeah, it's just not a good sign for Bukele. This he should know better than doing silly things like this, where it's like, just make sure the market is free. That's all you need to do. So there should be multiple suppliers for every single product inside your region. And if one person has created a monopoly, you need to essentially go, well, what's happened here? Can a new entrant appear? Or has this person now got such a, like, again, a regulatory moat or just a financial moat or whatever? Are people scared of this person or whatever? That all needs to go away and allow innovation and allow the free market to act. And everything will be fine. Like, literally give the people choice, give them a free market, and prices will settle at a good rate. You don't need fixing prices is just never going to be a good solution. You'll think it might be in the short term, but long term, it's going to cause them more problems. And
you end up with this subsidy mess, don't you?
Yeah.
Like in the UK, where half of food's subsidised.
Yeah.
And you end up in just an absolute mess of tax and circular, because they're basically siphoning off money. The money's going to people, it's getting taxed, it's getting put to supermarkets, to producers. Like you always hear farmers saying, we're not making any money. They're not making any money on the food, but they're making money on the subsidies, which enables them to buy their Range Rovers. So literally, it's stupid. It's really stupid to have that system in place.
When essentially what this is usually a sign of is a government looking to co-opt an entire industry, which exactly is what's happened in farming, because farmers can't make money off their crops. Like you said, they make money off the subsidies, which now makes the government completely they can just decide which farms they take over, because they just can just cut the subsidies and they all go bankrupt, and then they take them over, and now suddenly the food production is completely in their control.
Yeah, so if they do want to go, oh, you're going to eat plant-based food, they just take the subsidies away from cattle, any cattle, pigs, chickens, whatever else.
And they all go bust overnight.
Yeah. Or everyone else starts paying the proper price, but the proper price is going to be nasty.
Yeah, the price that we pay for meat at the moment, largely in the UK, is ridiculously cheap. It's because it's been heavily subsidized, and the farmers aren't making money off the cattle or the pigs or the chickens.
Yeah, so imagine the actual price.
But literally, I've got a farmer that has a massive freaking field, and he's told me, he's like, I get paid more to do nothing on that field than to put sheep on it, or to grow crops. I get paid more to not do anything.
You can get a whole chicken for what is about £4 or £5, can't you, in the supermarket?
Yeah, cooked.
Whereas if you actually bought that, I think I've seen it in France. I remember seeing it on a market stall, and it was like, was it 10 to 15 euros? And I was shocked. And then it's just like, hence, it isn't being subsidized in France.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But
yeah,
who knows?
I'm just on the so whilst you've been talking, I've just been trying to look on the El Salvador Daily News, which elsalvador.com. And one of the questions that's asked is interesting, is what's happened to the Bitcoin bonds promised by Bukele? I've managed to, so it's been 969 days since they were first announced. Is it possible that digital assets, according to economists, do not have the demand necessary to be issued? So people are questioning Bukele's intentions, and obviously the actions that he's done.
Well, I've just Googled it quickly, and there's a story from Jan 2nd this year that says it will be coming out this year at some point. So it's going to be coming out in 2024.
Right.
But yeah, it is a very poignant question, because he's gone very, very quiet on that. It's been a number of years that he's talked about these Bitcoin bonds.
Correct.
And I think they were a bit weird. I first looked into them going, okay, this could be a good thing.
Yeah.
To like maybe buy some of this. It's tied to Bitcoin. And he was sweetening the deal, going, if you buy a certain amount, you get residency in El Salvador. So I wouldn't be surprised if we just got caught in regulatory red tape and they've gone, look, you can't do this. You can't let people basically invest in an asset that you're calling in El Salvador an asset, but really it's Bitcoin, and then give them. So I'd imagine it's just probably bollocks and red tape, but who knows? Maybe it was also the uptake, because I think it was, you had to buy at least 500,000. I think that was the minimum.
Oh, right. Yeah, I do remember hearing that, actually.
So I wouldn't be surprised if they tested the market a little bit, and they just the demand wasn't there at that volume. Yeah, so that's a high buy price, right?
Yeah.
But you were converting, well, really, like, let's be honest, like the people that were going to be buying that, you're converting Bitcoin into Bitcoin, but self-custody Bitcoin into government custody Bitcoin, which you kind of go, well, I now value this at 500,000 worth of Bitcoin. I value that at 0. So what else do I get? Well, I get residency in El Salvador. Okay, for 500,000, nah, that's a bit pricey. Because I can just pay my way in for like 50 grand around the side.
Yeah.
I don't need to pay that. And in reality, I don't want to convert 500,000 of my Bitcoin into government-owned Bitcoin. I know it's going to do the same price appreciation, blah, 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 but yeah, but I don't trust this government as much as I don't trust my own. So I don't want to give you that much Bitcoin to hold on my behalf. I don't like that idea. So it wouldn't surprise me if, guess what, a Bitcoin bond idea that isn't run by BlackRock, that's being sold to grannies and noobs, didn't fucking work. Because the only people that are following El Salvador bonds are Bitcoiners, and we ain't going to give 500,000 to a government. So maybe the market wasn't there. Although it does say they're going to launch it this year, and there's still so.
We'll see. As always, we'll bring you that as it comes about.
But yeah. I think I
But
said
yeah,
it was
it's
a good
a
product at the time, and I still think it's a shitty product now. Don't sell custody solutions to Bitcoiners.
yeah.
Ain't gonna work. Like unless you're BlackRock and you're going after noobs and NPCs, then you can sell a custody solution, and they'll buy it up, like thinking, oh yeah, I want to get exposed to price appreciation on Bitcoin. But the people that actually understand Bitcoin, they know price appreciation is not the big deal. It's custody. Custody is the big deal.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Just to test the waters as to how is Bukele being portrayed in the media, and equally what's the feeling towards him from the El Salvadorian people? Is he still seen as good, or is he now moving into that territory of becoming a dictator with the price controls, with the fact that he's changed the terms of how long his presidency can reign for and so forth? It's all these little 1% that start to add up, don't they?
Yeah.
They do, yeah. They do. Oh, so we go from one savior of Bitcoin to another in my question.
The troll article.
Yeah.
It's just a random article that I found. I thought it'd be good for the agenda.
Once a month. It's okay. I can take this.
Once a month. Can you take it once a month?
This is your shanking penis. So I think this is. Well, actually, no. Actually, I think there's another one that's really good, but yeah, this is why property sucks and Bitcoin fucks. So here's someone that, yet again, another property portfolio cuck called Freedom by 40. It was seen the light and realized that Bitcoin is the true investment asset, and Bitcoin is not. So it's just like, why not eliminate all the hassle of managing tenants, maintenance? Go buy a few more digital properties where there's limited supply of 21 million. Decided we're going to sell our fourplex and duplex, buy 8 to 10 more Bitcoin. Meanwhile, I've got people asking me we're going to 47k, which is this is great timing, really, right? So this is July 13th. So what's this, 3 days ago, when we were still in the dip, and we had the Trump assassination attempt, and now we're not 47k. We're at 65k in dollars now. So the entire dip is gone. We're back. So already this is like, here you go. If he could have sold this property at this point at 47k, which he won't be, by the way, because guess what? Property sucks and Bitcoin fucks. It was going to take him 6 months to sell this property, and who fucking knows what the price of Bitcoin will be by the time he sells it. He's already lost out on a 20-30% gain. And yeah, and there's people below being like, yeah, property's good, but come on,
I
Bitcoin.
always talk about property being a diversification in the cash flows as well in the real world. So you don't actually have to touch your Bitcoin in the interim. So yeah, for me, it's
How
one
much
of those. I
Bitcoin
will always.
to allow that cash flow.
How do you mean?
Obviously in all the money that you've put into the property in the first place to secure it, there's an amount of collateral you've got in property that could be in Bitcoin.
Well, you can pull your money out essentially when you refinance it. So you refinance it and then you put that money back into Bitcoin. And so
Or
again,
another
when you're
property.
doing or another property.
Could you ever
But then
you ever get to a point where you're like 100% running with the bank's money in property?
Yeah, 100%.
In that instance, then like, other than the
I
risk
might
of them fucking you when interest rates and mortgage rates go through the roof and whatever else, at least then, because a lot of people, when they buy into properties, right, they're putting money down, aren't they? Or the 10-20%. And that's a decent chunk, right? Average house price
25%.
250k.
Absolutely.
They're putting 20 to 50k into each property, which could be half to 1 Bitcoin that they're putting into each property. And yes, that gives them a cash flow. But the argument is the cash flow does not add up to more than just taking that 1 Bitcoin and holding it in Bitcoin as opposed to having it basically dead in a property. It might go up by 10% a year, right? But that's just going up with inflation. It's not real gains. It's just inflation. It's just that's a trick. That I think we're beyond that now, where we think house prices go up. They don't. They stay the same. It's just that the value of money goes down. So house prices don't go up. Value of money goes down. But what's real in that is the rental revenue that you get is real. That's real money. But does that keep up with the price appreciation of Bitcoin? And the argument is it doesn't.
Yeah, I understand that. It all depends, and this is the argument where if you do things properly and you go into the property properly, you can make money on the way in as well as the way out. And again, using the bank's money. So for me personally, on my first property, I'm completely out now. I am running completely with the bank's money. I was out after 3.5 years, and we're now 5 years in. And then on the second property, it'll be it's about another 2.5 years because we did a big extension on that one. So there's a lot of money tied up in it. But again, with the cash flows off the rental income, I will have no money left in that property and I will be fully out.
What I'm hearing here is that you think you're smarter than Michael Saylor.
I think the thing which worries me is like the elasticity, because at some point, we're still on a really low average wage within the UK, and the house prices keep on going up. So it's at what point does that snap back? And that's one of the issues which I have with property at the moment. It's like we're bordering on 10 times the average salary.
It's madness, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's what I mean. I don't understand the market well enough, but it's
2026 crash.
But you're talking to get it back on track, it's either the wages need to increase by double or the house prices need to halve.
Yeah, that one.
We talked about this the last time it was on the agenda. You said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just takes a couple of years for people to go bust. And it's around 2026. There are people all around the country right now not being able to afford their bills. But the problem is that the first bill that they will make sure is paid is the mortgage. Everything else will be suffering, and eventually they cut all these other costs, and they still realize they're in the red. And eventually,
but that's whether you're a landlord and you're owning a second or third, fourth property, or even just a standard homeowner, because of the actual the base rate, because people are finding it very difficult because of the interest rate to pay their own home. If it's the home that they own, yet alone one that they rent. So it's both camps.
Oh, that's mainly what I'm talking about. Yeah. The main reason the housing market will collapse has nothing to do with the buy to rent model that you're doing. It's the fact that the people that own these homes, and just one home, there's going to be millions upon millions of people defaulting.
Yeah.
You just don't. Everyone just thinks. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it's the All In podcast, right? They're very credible people. And they're going, oh, wow, like how we thought there was going to be a big collapse, a big recession. The economy's back. And yet again, their version of the economy is the stock market, which largely is completely run by the top 7 companies, the FANG.
Yeah,
Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Google, right? The FANG stocks. They're all up at all-time highs. So they're like, the economy's booming. I'm looking at this going, you guys fucking nuts. I look in the comments, there's a load of people going, I go to the shops, I buy 5 items, it costs $100.
Yeah.
I can barely afford rent. This is the reality, right? If you're rich and your home is paid for and you're already a millionaire, yeah, fine. You barely notice the fact that your shopping has doubled or tripled because it's a nominal expense in your world. But when you are living paycheck to paycheck, the fact that these bills have doubled is bankrupting them. But it takes 2 to 3 years for them to actually get evicted from their homes. Because they will beg, steal, and borrow to make sure that one bill is paid. But all the other bills will fall first, and then eventually the mortgage fails. That's the last one. And even once that falls, it'll take a year for the bank to do anything. So hence, that's why, it's roughly 2026 when all this implodes. Unless the government come in with full-blown socialism in some shape or form and subsidize the whole thing and somehow underpin it. Because they're going to have to forgive a fuck ton of debt. It's going to be 2008 on steroids.
I was going to say the problem about like going full-blown socialism, it's just a way of prolonging it.
Oh yeah, it still collapses in the end. It's just
exactly.
That's what would stop house prices falling. Like house prices wouldn't fall if they just forgive a load of debt and they just subsidize it.
But it will never be on one
down the road.
government's watch. Exactly that. They don't want to be the ones. So we've seen here in the UK with Labour recently getting into power that they're going to create more homes. How? When people can't afford them, it's like.
They were the putsies the last time it all crashed. It's all set up nicely for it to be Labour's fault again, and then the Conservatives can come riding in on the white horse.
They were talking about making lifetime mortgages and ones which pass through families. So literally talking about 3 generations or 4 generations of families living in a home, and homes which are getting significantly smaller every year.
Yeah.
So it's madness. I think we've had our topical story, haven't we? The monthly, talking about property. Do we move on to the next bit? So a nice little video actually. This one, funny, but very dark. So is it a click moment?
Hey, you know how mortgages let people buy houses they can't afford? Think about doing that for cars, like loans for cars you can't afford. Yeah. But no one's going to want to borrow to buy a depreciating asset. I think they might. Well, the loans would have to be dirt cheap. See, I was thinking about making them expensive, like more expensive than a mortgage. Mate, nobody's going to go for that. I got a feeling that by 2024, Americans alone will owe $1.6 trillion in car debt. Really? So let me get this straight. If I wanted to buy a Mercedes with a loan, it'd end up costing me like $75,000. But if I saved up, it might cost me like $50,000. Saved up? What are you, 6 years old? Do you want a new car? I do.
So yeah, I thought this was a good click moment. And they do talk about loans in this, and it's a US one, isn't it?
Yeah, but it applies everywhere though. It's the same in the
whereas
UK.
In
It's the same.
UK, it's leasing. It's not quite a loan. It's a lease, which is what?
They'll give you a
Can get a loan. Yeah.
I was saying like the thing which props up the UK car market is leasing. So it's like 2-3 year deals.
That's even worse than this. This is I'll give you a loan at a higher rate, and you don't even get to own the thing at the end. You don't even get you don't even get the depreciating asset. Like at least in America, you get the depreciating asset. In the UK,
because
you get to give the depreciating asset back.
So in houses, like it's a bit of a juggle, whereas cars, it's literally the first thing which will go. Like you said, you'll be like, oh fuck it, I'll have to stop paying my car, or something else will go first before the house, and the house is the last thing which you stop paying. But this is one which I always look at and think it's ridiculous. It drives car prices getting into ridiculous territories. Like a standard, hatchback is probably like 35k or something like that, like over the average wage. And this is, probably like the equivalent of a Ford Focus now.
I think this is where Mrs. No Show should come in and talk to us about, remember the banger? And you're looking for a car at a reasonable price and could not find anything at all.
I did it after COVID, didn't I? I drove the affectionately named shed car to the Champions League final. I was like a Top Gear challenge. I decided to go down to one car because I was like, this is a ridiculous amount of money each month in car payments. I only need one nice car. I don't necessarily need two. And I bought a 2006 bright red Volkswagen Estate, and it was bomb-proof. Like, it was amazing. 186,000 miles on the clock, £1,500. You
Oosh.
know, um,
Back in the day, that would have been like a
but
couple of hundred, and
but
they'd have
exactly,
thrown it
right.
at
So
you.
so I've had a lot of cars. I think I counted over 20. Because when I was younger, I used to just get bored, and me and my dad used to go to car auctions, and we just buy a car at a car auction, and then drive it for a few months, and then sell it, and then buy another car. Um, like I've driven some absolutely ridiculous motors, but you would be buying them for like 150 quid, 250 quid. You're not talking like money. You would get a car that works and drives for half of what my payment on my car is now.
What about this?
For 1 month.
I still remember you turning up to 30 in the yellow Porsche.
But even that yellow Porsche was 5 grand.
Was it? Yeah.
So that yellow Porsche was 5 grand, 2001 plate, 120,000 miles on the clock. That
Was it?
lasted me 3 years, 4 years. I didn't have to do anything with it except change the brake pads, change the tires, and change the oil in
25
3 years.
grand.
5 grand.
Yeah, the same price as
But
that, yeah.
but now I looked the other day because you have that moment because I miss that car. I miss having that sports car. And I thought, can I do the same thing again? Can I buy myself a little runaround sports car, like 3.5 litre, something a bit fun? You can't get anything less than 10K now.
Mm.
So it's double, right? Even that car that I sold is probably worth what, 7 or 8, but you wouldn't buy it now because it's done, like, because it's so old. But yeah, it's absolutely insane.
Well, this is it. Like, we're kind of like the Ponzi scheme of cars. We've talked about the Ponzi scheme of houses, and now it's onto
Yeah.
cars. Like, people wouldn't buy cars for loans originally, and so the prices were kept down. But now they need to keep on scaling it up because of the weakening pound or dollar. So you've ended up with these cars becoming unimaginably expensive, and people
Yeah.
can't afford it. So now we go on to loans, and it's like, do you want a 50 grand loan? And it's actually, no, I'll take a 2 to 3 year lease. So you're getting these leases, and you end up with no asset at the end of it, like Mr. Rawlins says.
But that's the model that I operate on for that exact reason. It's like, do I want to drop this much money on an asset that's depreciating? I used to work in a pub, and there was a guy who was the FD at Everton. He used to drink in the pub, and we got chatting, and something he said to me like resonated. He was like, if it appreciates in value, buy it. If it depreciates in value, rent it. And that was like his philosophy on stuff. And he was like, I don't buy my cars. I want a new car every 2 years, 18 months. So I'll just essentially rent my car and just swap it because it's not it's a cost of living. It's not an asset.
But it is a genuine issue, like, to everyone, is like, how do you afford a car? Like, it's getting into the unmanageable category now.
Well, I've looked at swapping mine, and I'm paying probably just under £500 a month on a fucking car. It's ridiculous, And you're sitting there and you're going, okay, I'm happy to downscale this car. I don't need it to be as big. I don't need it to be as fancy. And like 2 or 3 models below, similar spec, but you're dropping down 2 or 3 models. You're saving yourself £100 a month.
Yeah, it's not a lot of difference.
It's like, what's the point?
But this is it. Like, you kind of go, like, you've got the ability to stretch to that money, whereas a lot of people, because energy, interest rates, food all going up, their margin of what people class as a luxury, which a car probably isn't now because buses are so shit, has closed right down. And like I said, it's probably like they're in debt every month, and it is just that snapping point now. Like, until assets are getting reclaimed, they're stopping paying other bills as well because it is closing.
The thing is, right, the car market for so long followed that interest rate. Like, it was cheap. Like, we used to have a guy who was Dutch that worked for us, and he would say, like, he would be like, I can't believe how cheap it is for you to get cars. Like, he would ask me what I'm paying for my car a month, and at the time it might have been like 350, 400 quid. He's like, yeah, this car in the Netherlands, 600 quid a month. So like, his perception was that it was still so much cheaper over here.
It's nuts though.
But we haven't got
I
wage
can't. I always
growth in
can't
the UK.
believe that they've managed to convince people that by paying basically a mortgage payment, which back in the day, that would be a big mortgage payment that over the course of 10, 15 years you get a house for. Now
Yeah.
you sign up for that, and every 4 years, yeah, okay, they switch the car out. But at the end of 15, 20 years of leasing, all you did is rent the car. You get nothing. You every single payment was just rent. So I would change the quote. The quote that you got given there, which is, appreciating assets, buy it, depreciating assets, rent it. I go, no. Appreciating assets, spend money on it. Depreciating assets, don't spend money in that area. That should be what it is, because it doesn't matter whether you rent it or buy it. It doesn't matter. If you're going out and overspending and spending £500, £1,000 a month on a car, I don't care whether the value of that car goes up or down, really. It's like, can you afford that on a car? Would you be doing that? Would you be driving a 50 grand car unless this loan existed? And if the answer is no, then you can't afford a 50 grand car. Go down. Can you afford a 15 grand car? No. Like, can you afford a 10? Because I would say everybody, no matter what your requirements are for a car, there's a 10 grand car for you. There just is. There just is. Like,
There is, if you are happy to drive something that is shit. Because honestly, I have genuinely looked, because I've played that.
I remember we looked together.
So the reason I bought a £1,500 car, it's actually a funny story. Like, it's because I had about 6K, right? And we were like, me and my partner were like, we can save some money. I'll drive my car because I'm paying the finance on it. I will get you we only had one car at the time. I was like, I will get you a 6 grand car. We went down to one car in COVID. After COVID, we needed 2 cars again. I was like, we've got 6 grand to spend on a car. Can you buy a car for £6,000? Yes.
well, yeah.
Can you buy a car that you would actually want to be seen in public in for £6,000? No. Like, you genuinely can't. Now, I don't give a shit. So hence the shed car. I actually fucking love that car. Like, I miss it. But there was no way in hell I was selling that to her. And actually the budget started at 5K and then we pushed it to 6K. We ended up at 7.5K. We were like, to be fair, there's still nothing that I would class as like a nice car. Back in the day, £7,500, you're driving around and you could buy like an Audi A3, relatively decent mile. Not a chance now. 15K for an Audi A3 minimum used.
Yeah, most of that's inflation, right? Because 7.5K is worth 15 now.
Yeah, exactly. But that's the thing. So you have to adjust your sights. And like my niece has just passed, and my first car was £425, and I thought that was expensive because there were cheaper cars on the lot. Now hers was like 5 grand.
Yeah,
a first car. Like, just like a 206 to drive around in.
Yeah, it was 20 years
5
later,
grand.
inflation.
So,
but
that's why people do it, because they go, do you know what? I'm gonna hold my hands up and say, I am sorry, I'm not driving that car. I'm just not doing it. I'll pay £500 a month because I can afford it.
But part of the reason why, like, not only is inflation done it, but also it's this car loan market that's done it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because if this market doesn't exist, cars aren't worth 50K because no one can afford the 50K. So
yeah.
And I love the video as well, because it's like, he goes, oh, we're going to do loans for cars. Like, no one's going to take a loan out for a depreciating asset. He's like, well, you're going to have to do the interest rates super low. He's like, no, we're going to do them higher.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Why would anyone take a loan out for a depreciating asset that is higher than what it is for an appreciating asset, which is property? He's like, well, basically it means you get a 50 grand car now. So but I'll be paying 75 grand for it. By the time the loan's matured, it'll be worth 25. He's like, yeah, but you get a 50 grand car now.
Yeah.
Like,
it is.
Even in the video, he's like, okay. he even convinces himself. He's like, I want that 50 grand car now, which is that the greed that it just ties into consumerism. The whole like, well, I deserve this. I'm working hard. I'm good at my job. I'm doing well. I've had numerous promotions. I deserve a 50 grand car. That's who I am. I am the 50 grand car. I want to be parked in the car park and I want to look good. And the problem is everybody feels the same way. So you look in the car park, everyone has a 50 grand car, which now isn't differentiated, and everyone's giving 20, 30% of their wage packet to a car that's sat on the thing, which they either get zero appreciation or asset because it's a lease, or they're halving their value every 5 years because that's what happens to
And
a
it's
car.
also, you think about the average person, they're probably driving it a few times a week, so they're probably working from home still.
Yeah, and then they, yeah, and even if they're not, like even when I was going to the office every day, that was the majority of what I did. I just went into the office. Like, who gives a shit what you drive to the office?
Yeah, half an hour each way, so an hour each day. So yeah, it's not
Yeah,
a massive amount of time. I think we have got a bit twisted on cars, haven't we?
Oh yeah, I like it though. It's a good place to do discussion. We went into property, and it's good to go into cars because it is just a scam.
Yeah.
Cars are a scam. They literally are. And they all it really is. It's like buying a white t-shirt from Shein, right? You can get it for $1.99, or you can go and buy a Gucci white t-shirt for 200 quid. Right?
You
It's a
know
white
that's why they
t-shirt.
changed the number plates to twice yearly. So it used to just be you would have like a 2001 plate. So it was
Oh yeah.
yeah. So it was like P Reg, M Reg, whatever. They
Yeah.
changed it to this 72 and like
Yeah, it's really hard to know what year a car is now. Yeah.
yeah. The reason they did that is because the market drives based on the new registration. Everyone wants the new registration plate.
Yeah, so
Well, the new registration plate was once a year before, so there was like that peak in that market once
it's a
every year.
lull,
It
yeah.
tended to be April. Now they have it twice a year. They've set it to be like I think is it October time, September, October time. So the market never drops for that long because they've got these two registration plates and everyone wants the new registration. The new registration. So I'm driving a 75 plate, and you're like, what does that even mean?
It's so weird. Like literally, all it is a metal box on wheels that just gets you around, and most people just drive it to the shops and back, and drive it to work and back. I understand people overreaching on their home because you literally live there, and it genuinely adds to your life. But in reality, unless you're super rich and you want to go razzing around and just have a sports car, like most cars are much of a muchness. And I mean, listen, I fall foul to this as well. I want a nice badge on it, and I know I'm paying more just for the badge, but most of the parts inside the car are the same as a car that would cost half as much with a different badge on it, and I pay double just because I don't want people to think that I'm poor, and that's me buying into it as well. But man, the fact the entire society does, because I must admit, I still drive around now. Occasionally, I go into Manchester and stuff, and I'll go into town. The amount of Range Rovers, Porsches, high-end Audis, there's no way these people can all afford these things. There's just no way. I'm looking at like they're nearly 50 to 100K cars, these things, and they're 5 grand a year to keep on the road every year. There's no way that this economy can support the amount of good cars I see. There's just no way. It's all going to go. It's got to fall in on itself.
Here's one for you because I know we probably all travel from their crew car park. The train station. If you look
Yeah.
at the cars there, it's like a showroom.
Is it?
Yeah,
Of course,
I've
everyone's there for
seen.
work, aren't they? Going to London or
Correct. Yeah,
Manchester. Yeah.
yeah. I've seen some amazing cars there, but yeah, everything you said, Porsches, Range Rovers, even saw Rolls Royce there the other week as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like I think I've said before, I live in a little country bumpkin, looking middle of arse end of nowhere place where most people are like relatively
facts.
just fine. I go off into the school car park and it's just full of Range Rovers.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, I know where you live. Like, that car's nearly worth as much as your house.
Mhm.
But it's like, guess what? That's on the Never Never, isn't it? Like, that's on a lease or whatever. Like, you
The
don't really
Never
own that
Never.
thing. you're paying as much for that car as your house, and at the end of 5 years, you got to give that thing back. You get to live in your house forever. You're actually paying that payment down to zero, hopefully. That car, you actively know you are not even going off 100%. Never mind getting down to zero. You're going to give that car back and have to get another one and continue paying, £6 grand a year for a car that you're never going to own. That's just so you can rock up in the school car park with a Range Rover.
Should we move on from car loans and mortgages and talk about
Going to Thailand?
Coins? Yeah, I'm playing about with shit coins, going down to a shit coin casino. Then, so this is a story about someone being mugged, which was interesting. And I think I found little bits of story pattered around the comments, but it's quite hard to decipher. So, oh no, actually, I just clicked on the wrong one. I have somehow.
There's a whole article on it.
It opened up your wrong account, did it?
Oh no, it's just loaded up, but a later story about oh, I'll leave it for last one. So it was foreigners as well. So this person, it wasn't like he went to Thailand and Thai people like kind of thought, oh, this is a rich crypto guy. This was foreigners who attacked him. So it's this person who liked to visit the shitcoin casino decided to brag, from what I can gather on this, and got beaten. But it does beg the question of what was the person doing? How would these people know that they're into altcoins, Bitcoin, and so on, if you're not telling them? I suppose this is for everyone to be careful. Is you don't need to tell someone you're into crypto. There's no reason why. Is there?
No, it doesn't seem to be. I think he's spoken as he's clearly met with these people. He's gone to Thailand and he's met them in some mansion. So I can only assume it's some type of, we're going to launch a shit coin, do a massive pump and dump. We're going to get a load of people wrecked. And all they've really done, we're 5 whales, we're massive holders of loads of coins. You're a holder of a coin. Let's all get together, create a coin, use our influence, pump and dump on all the plebs. And yeah, he's turned up. It's just a load of random guys that probably don't own that much crypto themselves, but know enough to have sucked it in. Someone that does have a fair bit of crypto on them themselves, and they just rob him.
The fact is that you go along to this. Why would you have your ledgers or your crypto on you?
Yeah, that's the part I was missing. I didn't get that.
They didn't get that from him, did they?
No.
No.
I'd imagine it'd be part of the thing, right? It's oh yeah, let's all bring our stuff, and because it's part of a pump and dump. What the best way to do it is to buy your own coin. So you create a coin, and then what you want to do over the first couple of weeks is just to buy your own coin with your own, probably normally it's a shitcoin to Ethereum market. So you need to have a ton of Ethereum, and you just buy a couple of million worth of your shitcoin every day for 2 weeks, and that will send the price going up nice and steady. And then you just start posting that chart onto various Discord groups and on Twitter, and people start thinking, oh wow, this coin's really successful, it's going viral, everyone's buying it, look, it's got 20 million of volume over the last 2 weeks. Yeah, the insiders have just spent 20 million of their money buying their own coin off themselves with Ethereum. So it's a fake set of volume. And then the second the noobs come in, then another 20 million of volume comes in, and then the first 20 million just exits, taking 30 million with it, 10 million profit. So I'd imagine that's why he would have had his ledger or his shit coins with him.
But he doesn't seem to have it.
We need to pump and dump.
So it says about what was seized. So iPhones, PGA watch, Rolex watch, credit card, 24,000 baht in cash, and the total value is about 3 million baht. So that's 60,000 in sterling. So like it doesn't appear to have any ledgers on him or anything.
Yeah, unless he had that up his ass. Yeah.
It just sounds like literally he was probably bragging in a bar or something like that, saying I'm a crypto billionaire or whatever, try and get laid, and he ended up getting tied up and beaten with a $5 wrench.
Did he not go there for this, or did he just meet someone in a bar? I thought he went there specifically to meet these people, or did he just meet them there?
No, it's just it.
It doesn't really say, does it?
Well, I remember hearing when obviously this was like when Bitcoin was at the height, that people would proactively show others. And I remember seeing one myself actually from someone that I met years and years ago. They would just show their ledger to you. And it's a weird thing because people don't go around showing their bank account. Like if they had that much money in their bank, they wouldn't show you that. Whereas it's weird that it's slightly different with this. And I remember actively seeing a guy, he had XRP and he had 400 and something thousand pounds at the time. And obviously that is no more. But he was just like loving life. He was a captain, and he he was a pilot, and I think it was only for a low budget airline, but he'd taken his savings and put it into this. And me and my friend were like, oh wow, taken aback, because this was, I remember it was January 2018 when he did this, and we were on a property course, just to add that in. And I was just like, wow. And yeah, it's just thought you are never coming back from this. And I still to this day know that he's never come back to it.
It's interesting on this one, reading the comments on it, because there's no mention of any crypto being stolen whatsoever. And I think somebody said in the comments, the story could also just read man with an expensive watch gets assaulted and robbed by other European tourists in Bangkok, because the suspects were from Denmark, England, and a foreign woman. So, the spin on it is, they might have been talking about crypto, but at the end of the day, they could have just been somebody that's walking around with a Rolex on in the middle of Bangkok, bragging about having some money and getting ripped off.
Yeah.
Does it actually relate back to even that in the first place?
Yeah. The more I looked at this story, the more I assumed he went there to meet these people, but then actually, it looks like he's almost met them there and he's just been mouthing off, and someone's just gone, we'll relieve you of the money that you have and that you're flexing. Because if you go to Thailand and start flexing how much money you've got, and if you even mention the fact you're a millionaire, you are going to get carted off and put a knife point. Like, it's just, and if you don't know that, then welcome to the real world, because these people over there have like nearly nothing. So don't go flashing cash. I don't flash cash anywhere. Like, Jesus, like, an expensive watch is a good thing to nick in any Western country.
Yeah.
I've even seen, they've even started, like, undercover police have started flashing out Rolexes, walking down UK high streets on purpose, trying to bait in these people that are nicking them, because it's like so common at this point that it's almost like the whole property and car thing. There's also like this third thing, which is watches, and people that can't afford a 10, 15, 20k watch somehow come buy one and then wear it on nights out, and guess what? They get relieved of that because you stumble down a road at 2 a.m. with 20k on your wrist. You walk past the wrong person, they're gonna take that 20k off your hands. So
the watch in particular is a really difficult watch to get. It's a GMT gold Rolex watch, so that's, I think, is probably what it was over.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like I said in the comments, it could just read man with expensive watch flexing in bar gets robbed by European tourists. So
yeah.
And maybe he had like 500 quid of Ripple on him. Like, oh wow, he's a crypto guy. Like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
He's just a fucking idiot.
Moves us on to the next one. If we're talking about idiots, you're gonna buy some bug cookies.
Eat the bugs.
Eat the bugs.
Oh man,
Love it.
this is literally like, yeah. So is the Bitcoin of you. What are the best supplements for brain health? Steak. There's a Bitcoin answer, right? Steak. Let's have a look at a shitcoin answer to the similar question. Here's Vitalik, the CEO and founder of Ethereum. Welcome. Here's a link to buy the bug cookies. They're good. Cricket protein.
Oh,
Oh man. Couldn't be more obvious, could it, between Bitcoin and shitcoin? We're like naturally grown, just of our ancestors, fruit and veg, but with a healthy slice of meat. And then you've got shitcoiners that are grinding up bugs that our ancestors never grind up crickets and put them and pretended they were burgers and sloshed it in with like 3D printed meat. Christ.
So that leads us on to the last story, which is a bit more informative. I think it's one which you've got to click your fingers for, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this one might take some time to discuss because it's quite an in-depth, important topic.
it's deep, meaningful shit, this,
Here it is. Everyone's waiting for this. What a waste of fucking time that was. Already, even the meme's out of date because we're back.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was relevant 3 days ago, but then someone fired a bullet at Trump's head, and everyone, for some reason, started buying Bitcoin again. And we're back to, again, all the scaremongering of like, oh, we're down 20%, maybe we could go another 20 or 50 down, or we're working at McDonald's. We're back. We're back to 50k a Bitcoin. Like, are we honestly saying 50k Bitcoin is low? I don't think we are.
No.
We're just, yeah. So the cats were wrong. We won't be working in Mackey's.
I enjoyed
it. You love a cat meme.
I was going to say one of my favourite ones of the last bull run was the Blinding Lights video with the cats.
That was fast,
to the tune.
Yeah.
That's the one which I always pull out when it starts to look like it bull runs again. But this one, it cracked me up, so I thought I'd share it with the group.
Surely, though, we are due a bull run.
Well, we can't be due anything. We can't follow models because it's all independent, so many moving parts. I just refuse to look at the models.
But the models do say this year is a fucking sexy year.
I wish I could write.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, $1 million Bitcoin would be nice. That'll get you a couple of car payments for that Mazda MX-5.
Do you know what? That was one of the cars I'd considered as well.
That's a proper midlife crisis, that one.
That's bad. Yeah. Yeah, it was a Z4, an MX-5, or a Boxer S.
It's so funny you say this because two of my neighbours, one with the Porsche, one with the Mazda. Midlife crisis.
Both probably cost the same each month.
Yeah. Right, well, there we have it. That was the world's most bullish podcast, Pod 148. We're on our way to 150. Keep on going. Brought to you by Mr. Orlin, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and she is a regular guest on the show. Can we say guest or presenter? Mrs. No Show, aka No Show. Peace.